Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Love From Lizi's Special Edition Christmas in June kit. This kit is not part of the monthly subscription and is available to purchase individually. Lizi wanted to make sure everyone had plenty of time to make their Christmas cards, so she decided to release a Christmas kit in June. As I'm recording this voiceover, the kit is still available, and I do have links provided in the description box below. This kit is packed full with pattern paper, decoupage, there's some stamp sets, ink pad, embossing powder, and lots of other fun goodies. So let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I will be using some card sketches for inspiration. This first sketch is from Sugar Pea Designs. It's Sugar Sketch number 38. And if you are interested in any of the sketches I use in this video, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. That link is provided in the description box below, or you can simply head over to kristiemarcotte.com. For this first card, I have some off-white shimmer cardstock for the background, and I used one of the border stamps that's included in the kit, stamped the image on the right and left side of this background panel. Then I added some pattern paper in the center. For a little bit of separation between the pattern paper and the background, I added some Love From Lizi peel-offs. This is the pinstripe style in the gold moon dust color. I layered the background panel on some olive green cardstock, put my card front onto a card base. Using Love From Lizi's Stitch Circle die set, I cut out 3 circles from the same off-white or cream shimmer cardstock. I'll adhere all of those in place using some glue. Then I'll add these beautiful holly berry stickers that are included in the kit. I'll put one inside each of the circles. The card sketch does have the 3 lines and a little heart going across the bottom, but I decided to leave that part off. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 2, I have this really fun pattern paper for the background. I think it looks like lots of peppermint sticks. I'll be layering it on some red pearlescent cardstock, and this is cardstock included in the kit. For the image panel, I'm using some light cream cardstock, and I'll layer it on some of the green pearlescent cardstock that's included in the kit. Along the edge of the cream cardstock, I'm adding some Love From Lizi peel-offs. This is a red glitter color. I'm using the medium width, and I'll put it along the very edge of the cream cardstock. I'll flip over the panel, use my scissors to trim off the extra. I'll put adhesive on the back of my image panel. I was ready to adhere it to the peppermint stick pattern paper, but first I need to layer the pattern paper on the red pearlescent cardstock. Now I'll add the image panel. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. This card will be featuring one of the decoupage images. It's one of my favorites. It has 3 sweet little birds. The decoupage sheets include several different layers, so you could add lots and lots of dimension. I believe many of the images have 5 or even 6 layers. I prefer to use just a few of the layers, and that way I can use the leftover pieces on another card. So for this card, I have the background piece, then I'll add a layer with the 3 birds sitting on a branch, and also the poinsettia. The card kit does include a sheet of the small square foam dimension. Next, I'll add the sentiment Christmas Wishes, and this sentiment is included on one of the decoupage sheets. And I did add foam dimension behind the sentiment. I'll adhere it underneath the birds on the right side. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding some Love From Lizi peel-offs. This is the mini circle style in the gold moon dust color. Using the smallest size circle, adding 3 of them in the upper left-hand corner of that image panel and 2 in the lower right-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The second card features the other pieces of the decoupage layer. For card design number 3, I selected a red background pattern paper with holly, berries, and branches. I'm adding a panel of green cardstock, and this is cardstock from my stash. Along the edge of that green panel, I'm adding some Love From Lizi peel-offs. This is the ruby red color with the gold overlay. I'm adding a medium width above and below the green panel, and I'll also add one of the widest width peel-offs above that top panel. I'll wrap the ends around the back. At the bottom of the card, I'm adding a narrow strip of the green and gold foil pattern paper. I put some double-sided adhesive tape on the back. I'll remove the release paper and adhere it in place. Now I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. For a sentiment, I'm using the die that's included in the kit. It has the name Santa Claus and a beautiful snowflake on the left side. I cut this out from the gold pearlescent cardstock that's included in the kit. I'll put glue on the back and adhere this sentiment die cut onto the green panel. I am putting an acrylic block on top for some added weight while that glue dries. Using the same gold pearlescent cardstock, I'll cut a banner and add it in the upper right-hand corner. I'll first cut a fishtail on the bottom. Then on one side, I'll cut it in slightly at an angle, flip it over, and do the same thing on the other side. Then I'll adhere it in place using some glue. So there is my finished card, and this time I made a total of 4. I decided not to add any bling or embellishments, since it's always nice to have some cards on hand that are nice and flat, and I won't have to pay any additional postage to mail them. For card design number 4, I have 2 pattern papers. The very background has lots of fun Christmas sentiments in gold foil, and I'm adding a smaller panel of the red and green plaid paper. You won't be able to read any of the sentiment, but you will see that beautiful gold shine. I'll add my card front onto a card base. This card will also be featuring one of the decoupage images. It's a snowman in the forest with a few birds. I use the background piece and one of the layers, just popping up the snowman and the birds. Also adding the sentiment Merry Christmas. I did pop up the sentiment, but I used some thinner dimension. For a final finishing touch, I'll add a small banner in the upper left-hand corner, and I cut this out from some red cardstock from my stash. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The second card features some of the leftovers of that decoupage image. For card design number 5, the card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 16. This card features the same sentiment pattern paper in gold foil that I used on the previous card. When I was first planning this card, I was going to use 2 different pattern papers, so I already cut it in half. Then I changed my mind and decided the entire background would be the same pattern paper. By adding a narrow strip of the gold pearlescent cardstock, I'm able to cover up that cut seam, so no one has to know that that background piece has been cut in 2. I did layer it on some olive green cardstock, and this is cardstock from my stash. This card will also be featuring one of the decoupage images. We have a deer peeking through a beautiful Christmas wreath. This decoupage piece is layer number 2, so the wreath does have the hole cut out. I'm adding a piece of light cream cardstock behind the wreath. That way the pattern paper and gold strip aren't showing through behind the wreath. Then I'll put glue on the back and add my decoupage image to the center of my card. I already have foam dimension on the back of the next 2 layers. I'll be popping up the deer and the bow, and also just the single bow. For embellishments, I'm using more Love From Lizi peel-offs. This is the mini circle style in the gold glitter color. I'll add 2 of the larger circles in the upper left-hand corner and 3 of the circles, one of each size, in the lower right-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did end up making a total of 6. 2 of them have the same pattern paper and the deer and wreath, and the other 4 cards feature 2 different pattern papers, and instead of a decoupage image, I use a Love From Lizi stamp set. This is not included in the kit. The sentiment is "Have yourself a merry little Christmas." Underneath the stamp sentiment, I also added a ribbon bow. The kit includes 2 pre-tied bows from all of the ribbon designs, plus a meter each of I think 5 or 6 different ribbons, so you can tie more bows. Now moving on to card design number 6. The card sketch is from Mojo Monday. This is number 104. I selected the blue pattern paper with the holly leaves and berries for the background. I'll be layering it on some green cardstock. For the longer narrow strip, I cut this out from the blue paper with the gold foil sentiments. And for the wider, shorter strip, I used some of the green and gold stripe pattern paper. I'll adhere both of those to the background. Using Love From Lizi's stitch circle dies, I cut out a large stitch circle from the green pattern paper. I will be filling in that opening, and I know it looks like I used the exact same green cardstock, but it's not. The cardstock I'm using for the layering has a texture finish. The green cardstock I used to fill in that cutout was just some green cardstock from my stash. I always try to find cardstock that's about the same thickness. Using another stitch circle die, I cut out this pattern paper that has Santa stamps all over it. And I'll adhere those two together using some glue. For a sentiment, I'm adding Happy Holidays. And this is from another Love From Lizi set. It's not included in the kit. Before adhering the sentiment circle down, I will add a scrap cardstock piece on the right side. Then I'll adhere it in place using some glue. To finish off the card, I put 3 mini circle peel-offs in the lower right-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 4 using this design. For card design number 7, the card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 589. The background of the card features pattern paper with lots and lots of Santa letters. I'm adding a narrow strip of dark blue pattern paper with stars all over it. On the card sketch, it has that narrow strip going in front of the circle frame, but I'll be reversing that. I'll be using one of the vellum sentiments, has this beautiful gold foiling, the word believe, and lots of little stars. The sentiments are put together fairly close on the sheet, so I wasn't able to cut that out with a circle die. So instead, I trimmed it down, and I'll be adhering it to the back of that circle frame. I put just a little bit of glue on the right and left side of the circle and attached my vellum sentiment. After adhering the sentiment, I flipped over the circle, used my scissors to trim off any of the extra vellum sticking outside that circle frame. Then I'll put glue on the back just behind the circle frame and adhere it to my card. Next, I'll add some of the ribbon that's included in the kit. To adhere to the card, I'm first putting down a piece of double-sided adhesive tape. I'll remove the release paper, then lay the ribbon right on top, trying to make sure to get it nice and straight. I did cut the ribbon wider than my card panel. That way I can wrap the end around the back and I won't have to worry about the end of the ribbon fraying. I'll layer the pattern paper on some dark blue cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. From the dark blue pattern paper that has all the sentiments in gold foil, I cut out the Jingle Bell section. I put some thin foam dimension on the back and I'll adhere it to the center of the ribbon. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding one of the pre-tied bows in red, and I'll adhere it on the top of the circle frame using a glue dot. So there is my finished card, and I did make 4 using this design. All of the cards feature a different vellum sentiment. Sometimes it can be tricky working with vellum since you don't want any of the adhesive to show through. By adding that circle frame on top of the vellum, I didn't have to worry about the adhesive showing. For card design number 8, using more of the red pattern paper with the holly leaves, berries, and branches, I'm adding a strip of the green and gold striped paper on the left side of the card. And it was just a little bit shorter than the red pattern paper, so I did go and trim that down. Along the edge of the green and gold paper, I'm adding some Love From Lizi peel-offs. This is the Racing Green Mirror color in the pinstripe style. On the right side of the panel, I didn't need a full peel-off strip since I will be covering it up with the sentiment and image. I'll layer this piece on some green cardstock, Put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. I'm using another decoupage image, a sweet little bird with some poinsettias above it. I have the first layer that has the red frame around it. Then I'll add 2 more layers for a little extra dimension. I'm using more of the small foam square dimension that's included in the kit. And I was really happy that the release paper comes off super easy. There are some brands where it takes me forever to get that release paper off. Of course, that could just be me. The sentiment is Christmas wishes, and this is from the cut apart sheet that's included in the kit. I did pop it up with some foam dimension. For a final finishing touch, I'll add more of Love From Lizi's mini circle peel-offs in the gold moon dust color. Put 2 in the upper left-hand corner and 3 around the sentiment. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The second card features some of the leftovers of the decoupage sheet. Now moving on to card design number 9. I'll be using the large Santa stamp that's included in the kit. I don't color images, so I'll be doing some heat embossing. I'm using Love From Lizi's Golden Crown embossing powder and the Versamark ink pad, and both of these are included in the kit. I'm stamping on some white shimmer cardstock. I first put some anti-static powder on the cardstock before inking it up with the Versamark ink. I am using my mini Misty to stamp that image since I want to make sure to get a good solid impression. Then I'll cover the stamped image with the Golden Crown embossing powder. Tap off the extra. I'll grab my heat tool and heat set the Santa image. I think it's been several months since I've done any heat embossing, and no matter how many times I do it, it always looks like magic watching the embossing powder melt. Using one of Love From Lizi's stitch circle dies, I'll cut out the Santa image. And I used the next size up circle and cut it out from some red cardstock. I'll adhere those 2 pieces together. I will place some acrylic blocks on top for some added weight while the glue dries. Then I'll put glue on the back and add my Santa image to the center of some plaid pattern paper. There are 3 lines behind Santa on the right side, and I was using those as a visual to get the image nice and straight. Put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. As you can see, the Santa image is fairly large. This is an American Standard A2 size card. Next, I'll add a vellum sentiment. Half of the vellum sentiments have gold and the other half are black. I'm using the Ho 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 sentiment. I'll first adhere the vellum piece onto some craft cardstock, and I'm putting just a tiny bit of glue behind the black area of the sentiment. Then to make sure that piece stays in place, I'll add some Love From Lizi peel-offs. This is the ruby red mirror color with the gold overlay, using the narrowest width and putting one above and below the sentiment. And I made sure to cut those peel-offs a little bit longer, that way I can wrap the ends around the back. And now I know the sentiment isn't going anywhere. I layered the sentiment on the same red cardstock, and I'll be adhering it underneath the Santa image. I am adding some thin foam dimension just on the lower half of the sentiment and a couple small pieces on the right and left side. I'll remove the release paper, put glue on the area that'll be sitting on top of the Santa image, and adhere it in place. For a final finishing touch, I'll add the last holly berry sticker in the upper right-hand corner. I really like the holly stickers. They have a beautiful silver holographic outline, so they're super sparkly. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. My original plan was to do 10 different card designs, but apparently I can't count. Now here's another look at the 28 cards I made using Love From Lizi's special edition Christmas in June kit. As I'm recording this voiceover, the kit is still available, and I do have links provided in the description box below. This kit is packed full with pattern paper. You'll have plenty to make lots and lots of Christmas cards. The Christmas in June card kit is not part of Love From Lizi's monthly subscription. It's only available for individual purchase. I also have links for all of the other products I used in this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.